The polar vortex is fully upon us. It's gotten bad. Yet again, another day where high temperatures don't escape the mid 20s, and and this winter has probably been the most brutal in like 10 years, just based on all the snow and the cold, which initially was appearing that January was going to be a warmer month, but this cold wave has been unprecedented in at least in a long, long time. Like like I actually don't know. Like this is like basically historic. You have to remember, this is all coming off of a month that was 5.3 degrees below average. Starting December was warm. It was the coldest in years. As it was just persistently cold throughout the whole month. Very few days had any kind of warmth. It was below average the first 17 days of the month of December, and the amount of days that clocked in at above average was six. 6 out of the 31 days clocked in above average. And it was just, again, perpetually bad throughout the whole month. January was initially looking like it was going to have a reprieve. The first part of the month was warmer than average. There were many days that were warmer than average. It even reached as high as 54 degrees with the low temperatures as high as 45 degrees at the start of the month. Now it's 1.7 degrees below average, and the final 3 days are only going to make it even worse. Probably we're going to see this month finish, if I had to guess, at about 3-ish degrees below average, mainly because, this is probably going to be around 15 below average, which if it is 15 below average, that would probably knock it down another half degree. And then the next 2 days might knock it down like a full degree, but maybe not. But based on some of the forecasts, I could see them being 20 to 30 degrees below average. Either way, this is going to finish colder than last year's January, which I honestly didn't think was possible, seeing as how cold last January was. Though it did have a bit of a warm up at the end, as 5 of the final 6 days clocked in at warmer than average, and even 2022's miserable January. Even 2022's miserable January is only 3.4 below average, and this is probably going to be at about that level. It's probably going to be about that level, just that now you won't have that super warm December. It'll instead be a frigid December leading up to another brutal January. The cold wave is now on, which, by the way, since January 17th, there's only been one above average day in Central Park for the entire second half of January. But the cold wave began on Saturday. This is now day 6, and based on the forecast, it is not snapping anytime soon. The low temperature already reached 9 degrees, and it's probably going to reach even lower at some point. As this progresses. Now, I will note that this isn't universal across the area. Some areas are doing better off. Islip is only at zero point 0.7 degrees below average, and they haven't been quite as brutally cold as some of the other areas, so I feel like they, might not clock in as insanely below average. Keep in mind that for December, they only clocked in at 2.8 degrees below average as well, and in November, Islip actually clocked in at above average. Central Park did not, so January is going to be month 3 in a row of below average temperatures, and based on how February is looking out to be, very likely we're going to see month 4 in the near future. But now I'm not sure how this is going to verify, but now what they're signaling is kind of this. Now, if this is the hold, yes, I get it. The cold wave is 13 days long, and that would put it at near historic level, seeing as the longest cold wave in New York history is 16 days. Keep in mind, there's going to be another Arctic front sweeping through, so that would make it a historically long cold wave. I have my doubts on this, though. You're basically having them predict all these sunny days with high temperatures of 31 degrees. That's close to freezing on its own, and some of these days have actually been a little bit warmer than projected. Today I think the high was supposed to be like 21 or ish, wound up being 23. So I kind of take that with a grain of salt because there is a decent chance that it could be a smidge warmer than expected. But the thing that you have to realize is that even if it's like, okay, maybe it is a little bit warmer than expected. It's still horrendously cold. It's still brutal. So, looking at something like the Weather Channel forecast for New York City, they have it as more brutal in the upcoming days, but they do have some thaws coming. They have 3 consecutive days of above freezing temperatures, but then note that then they have us thrust back into a week-long cold wave, which, again, we'll have to see how that irons out. But honestly, I would not be totally surprised given how bad this winter was, and that might actually cause like a record amount of below freezing days in a certain like day span. Because if this holds true, it's a 10-day cold wave, 3 days of above freezing weather, and then a 7-day cold wave. So that means 17 of the last 20 days should be below freezing. That might not actually be a record because we have seen like 16-day long cold waves before. But either way, it's basically calling for another week long cold wave after this. And the only day that even seems remotely close is Friday and then possibly Thursday at the other end. It looks like there might be some precipitation on Thursday, and that could absolutely fuel this. So it's not the easiest thing to predict. But I guess when you compare long term outlooks, you'll sort of see more of what I'm talking about. So looking at the 6 to 10 day outlook, you have this warmth that's approaching east. So one might think that it would reach here, but the cold is still here. And as a matter of fact, New York is now in 5 layers of cold and average conditions, and so is Delaware. I have to go back to school. But it looks like it's kind of, in a way, being pushed away. But it's like the way it's re-anchoring itself is weird. Note that starts February 4th. So the warm-up was only 2, and then you have this. However, even though the cold initially looks like it's pushing even further east in the next outlook, or again, the cold is reasserting itself over this entire area of the Mid-Atlantic, which honestly has suffered enough this winter, but it's getting even more of it. That's kind of what they're more so saying in the 8 to 14 day outlook, whereas the 6 to 10 day outlook, was kind of actually maybe it's saying maybe the cold is going to push back west. I don't know. It's feel like this cold air has been locked in over the East Coast for the past long while, and I honestly don't know why. But we have not seen this in a while. Even if it's cold, it hasn't been this bad in a while. This could be one of our coldest winters on record. The 3 to 4 week outlook has us in 2 layers of cold, and this starts February 7th, so it'll probably be updated soon. What my guess is that the cold is going to continue to push back or maybe reassert itself further west. I hope so. But the outlooks certainly have not been tracking any warmer, and the streak of below average temperatures might reach historical lengths.